Dining hall is lively this morning, filled with the voices of my chattering family. The four of them have been discussing some kind of upcoming ball, but my thoughts are elsewhere. No matter how hard I try, I cannot dispel the image of the rain running down Fritz's cheeks like tears. Fritz was smiling by the end of the night, but his sadness still seemed to linger. I have to find some way to help him overcome it, but how? Lucette?
Lucette.
Rod's voice is not loud enough to break me from my reverie. I look up at him, startled. He just rolls his eyes before going back to his breakfast.
The trick is to say her name loudly enough to startle her out of her thoughts. Sometimes with a gun.
What the fuck?
Oh. I'm not unconvinced.
You know, now that you mention it, but instead of a demon, he's got a little plush pony. Wait, if magic is no more, does Sebastian even work anymore?
Probably not.
No! Sebby! That means no broom either! No!
Yep, Sebby's dead too.
And you're not crying about Mr. Broom?
We don't talk about that.
I think that's a yes.
We only talk about your sadness, not his.
Dylan Coxcon, we don't talk about that. Oh, I'll keep that in mind. I grumble as the two of them exchange a smile. You needed me for something. We wanted your opinion. I don't know how to do an Ophelia voice.
No. Oh, the one time we actually finally needed her. Jesus.
Do it. Do it.
No.
Yes.
Do it.
Be your own wife. Be your own wife.
Refuse.
Oh my god. Fine. We wanted your opinion. Oh, Willie, you're throwing me off. We wanted your opinion on a theme for the upcoming ball, dear.
I was gonna say older Emmeline. It's not hard.
I know, but I already struggle with Emmeline. Because I keep changing hers slightly every single time, and I'm like, damn it, what was that one time when I was her a bunch? Alright. My opinion, I do not care what sort of theme it has. Emmeline and Ophelia are better at planning these elaborate affairs anyway. You at least need to give us your opinion on the finalized concepts. I'll wait for Ophelia to list the ideas. In the end, I consent on a mixed floral theme. Ophelia thinks it would be nice for the summer. Hardly matters. The noble men and women will come regardless, because it's a royal ball. Sorry, I had an eyelash just fall into my eye. My right eye's been like shedding all week. Later, when the conversation dwindles and the food is finished, the servants begin to clear breakfast from the table. Father reminds me of a council meeting later in the day before excusing himself. Ophelia is quick to follow, saying she needs to work on plans for the ball. I'm off to Emmeline and Rod. So, how is Sir Fitzgerald doing? Fine, I think. You think? He's been extraordinarily busy. I thought his resignation would mean no more obligations, but he still has so many loose ends to tie up. I hope he can have breakfast with us again soon. Is something wrong?
I was just thinking about the last time he had breakfast with us.
Oh. For a few moments, the dining hall is quiet, save for the fire of plates and utensils as the kitchen staff remove them from the table. Last time Fritz was here, he managed to accidentally impale the table with a fork and knock over a platter of fruit. How do you impale a table with a fork? Jesus.
How do you accidentally impale a table?
He also nearly hit a man in the head with a spoon. Boy! He's clumsy as hell, but yet he was a knight. How did he not accidentally incapacitate someone?
How does he still have limbs?
Maybe weapons are the only exception to his clumsiness, so the flaw is you are a badass. Like, if this was D&D, I think one of his quirks was, I am absolutely flawless with weapons. Everything else, I'm a complete klutz. Well, it's a fun memory to look back on.
Not the word I would use, but okay. How did he manage to throw a spoon backwards at one of the servants.
It slipped out of his hand? It's remarkable how Fritz can be so composed one moment and shockingly clumsy the next. I believe he said he was extremely tired that day, but... Emmeline laughs. Sir Fitzgerald is a wonder. He is. Ever since that incident, he had purposely avoided invitations to breakfast. I clear my throat. Well, I have some morning errands to run with Fritz, so I'll excuse myself early. Emily and Rob both look at me quizzically. Errands? Personal errands. Tell Father I'll be back in time for the council meeting. Isn't he still at the table? The three of us exchange farewells before I head out.
No, he got up.
Oh yeah, he did.
I'm sad we didn't get an angry face from Rod.
Yeah.
And here we are.
After leaving the dining hall, I went to the forest gates to meet Fritz, who was there just after 10, as promised. He walked me to the edge of the forest, along with the three of his most trusted guards. As soon as we reached the clearing, he told the guards to scatter. Today's the day he teaches me how to defend myself. Is there a reason you brought other knights with us?
Watch the perimeter, just in case.
He's as cautious as always.
Someone has to be.
He takes my hand and leads me over to a tree stump.
Milady?
He bows when I sit down. I
Give him a
smile at
little
him.
fedora.
Oh my god. Lord Fitzgerald. I laugh when he blushes. So far, I don't think anyone other than the knights he used to train have used his new title. He coughs to clear his throat.
I'll give you the rules of our exercise before we start.
Rules.
Yes. The goal is to keep me from touching you by any means necessary. The only thing you aren't allowed to use is the dagger.
He glances at the small pocket of my dress. Never told him I had in my pocket. How did he know?
I'll have you use the dagger later, when you become more accustomed to its weight. But for now...
He takes a step forward. Between one step and the next, a wolfish grin appears on his face.
You're going to hide and run and do whatever it takes to keep me away from you. Because of this exercise, I'll be hunting you.
Hunting? The look on his face reminds me of the smirk he was wearing in the forest yesterday. It's a smile that'll always remind me of Varg.
Lucette?
He looks at me, concerned.
Too much?
No, I was just thinking about something. I stand from the tree stump with renewed resolve. I'm ready.
Good. Because this is just a test run, so no pressure. Do what you think is instinctively best. Work on your lessons from there.
I have not done something like this since I was a child. Only back then, the running was nothing more than a game. I clench my hands in a fist and nod.
Remember to stay in the forest, Lucette.
I take a few steps back, waiting for him to signal. Much to my surprise, Fritz only closes his eyes and crosses his arms.
I'll give you a 10-second head start.
So hide and seek, got it. He immediately begins to counting down after that, and without another thought, I turn on my heels and run. Run as fast as my legs take me, doing my best to weave through the forest bramble as quietly as I can. Eventually, the sound of counting stops. I hear Fritz take one step, then another, and then he's running into the forest after me. My heartbeat picks up as he draws near. Even though it's Fritz, I cannot stop myself from shaking. What do I do? Wait, hold on here. Okay, blah, 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 blah. After me. Okay. I'm thinking. No, not auto. Stop. Okay. I'm thinking. Hide or continue running.
I I want to say face him head on so bad.
Down suburb. I thought about it, but you don't want to, like, you want to try to avoid the dagger. But yeah. So obviously not that one.
It would be funny though.
Okay, which one would you pick? Otherwise, or is it still that one?
No, hide.
Wait, which one did I say? Oh no, I saw it was between
Also,
those two.
Yeah, you were between the two, and I'm saying hide. I
Oh.
want to say face him head on because it'd be hilarious.
Okay, I'm leaning towards hide now because it sounds like he's easily outpacing her. So if she keeps running, he's probably going to be able to catch up sooner. And obviously, head on, it's not going to work. So, yeah, should we just go with hide?
Yeah.
Alright. Fritz is a fast runner, and I have no doubt he'll catch me if I continue at this pace. It might be more effective to hide from him. I quietly scatter the leaves in front of me and sweep them in the opposite direction with my foot, hoping that Fritz will assume I've gone the other way. I put my back to the nearest tree and hold my breath as he approaches. I do my best to still my breathing, even going so far as to bite down my lip as I press myself into a tree and try to make myself small. It's only when Fritz disappears around the bend that I lose a breath. Incredulous. It worked? No sooner has the thought occurred to me that I suddenly hear a voice at my shoulder. Bruh, how the hell you teleport?
Magic. Boo.
I jump away from the tree with an undignified yelp. The hurry to reach for something I can use as a weapon. I find a loose branch on one of the trees, snap it off, and hold it before me. Fritz immediately goes on the offensive, reaching out to grab me as I shrink away. I hold the branch up in front of me like a shield.
Clever.
Sorry, I was eating a quickie. He stalks just out of range. His footsteps quiet as he circles me. It almost feels like an animal toying with its prey. I'm so busy watching Fritz's movement that I don't notice when he suddenly pivots in my direction. I take a step back, but come back to back with a tree trunk. I hold my branch, but it's useless. Fritz grabs the branch with one hand and leans forward to plant a kiss on my forehead.
Got you.
He sighs out the tree branch fall from my hand. Oh, no, that did work. Okay, cool.
What you did was wise.
Using a branch as a shield?
Yes.
Fritz laughs.
Well, that, yes. But I was referring to the hiding. There is a reason I wanted to start off like this before moving on to defense.
Doesn't he mean offense? Whatever.
Evasion is important. It's best to avoid a fight if you can. You're pretty good at hiding.
But you caught me.
Because I heard you sigh.
That would explain it, but also how the hell
Yep.
did he get to her shoulder so fast?
Magic. Still though, your instincts are good, Lucette. Anyway, now that the exercise is over, let's move on to defense, shall we?
For the next hour, Fritz teaches me defensive stances. He shows me how to react in certain situations, including ones that are similar to my capture in the alleyway. Come to the end of the hour, he's taught me how to break out of someone's grip. The first method involves pulling back on someone's thumb, and the second involves pulling down on their forearm. But to ask him to demonstrate one of the holds when I stop, realizing the time. Fritz is one step ahead of me.
You have to be getting back now, don't you? Some meeting with the counselors?
I nod my head with a sigh. My attendance at these meetings is necessary, not only because I will be queen someday, but because Father insists I know the various counselors personally.
I'll lead you back then.
He offers his arm, and I allow him to lead me back to the palace. Council meeting goes on longer than expected. By the time the counselors are finally excused, and it's just Father and I in the room, I'm exhausted. I fall back in my seat with a senseless sigh. Father smiles at me from his seat.
Right on time.
Exhausting, isn't it?
I nod. The thing Dallin had to go see, that was the counselor meeting?
Yeah.
You're smart.
Yeah.
It's no wonder why you're always so tired.
The more meetings you attend, the easier it will become to participate in them.
Father eyes the empty thrones in the room with a fond smile on his face.
It is at times like this that I am most grateful for family.
I look at him, curious. He simply inclines his head.
It's always easier to shoulder your burdens if you have loved ones there to pick you up.
Before I shunned others and refused to let myself be a part of the family, I didn't think I ever needed to depend on anyone. Now I realize that depending on others is not a weakness, but a strength. I allow myself to lean on my family and on Fritz. I hope Fritz feels comfortable doing the same with me.
Lucette,
I look up at my father.
how are things going between you and Lord Fitzgerald?
They're fine. Why do you ask?
Perhaps it's not my place to ask, but have you spoken with him recently about what he plans to do after his retirement paperwork is complete?
Fritz hasn't mentioned anything to me, but I don't want Father to worry needlessly about our relationship. He has spoken about it some.
Oh? Glad. He seemed at a loss when I spoke to him the other day.
Strange. I wonder why Fritz brought this up to Father and not me.
I have no doubt you'll help him figure something out.
I stand abruptly. If I may, Father, do you mind if I excuse myself for a couple of hours? I have another meeting later, and I'd like to enjoy my break while I still can.
Of course. Thank you for your hard work, Lucette.
Father offers a cordial nod as I leave the throne room.
I just got someone in the doghouse. I know that look.
No sooner have I walked into the corridor than the person stepped in front of me, effectively blocking my path.
Good afternoon, Lucette.
Jesus, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like Varg! Ah! I stumble back in surprise. Fritz smiles apologetically.
Sorry. I thought I'd wait for you out here.
Where were you even hiding?
Hiding? I wasn't hiding. I was just standing right outside the door.
Fritz has a perk where if he stands still enough, he goes invisible.
He's literally fucking Kellum from Fire Emblem Awakening.
Oh, I went Chameleon from Syndicate.
Yeah, that's where I went to. Evie's ability, like her max stealth ability. That or that one perk in Dead by Daylight where your heartbeat and everything disappears if you stand still. I think it's called Insidious.
Dude, in Fire Emblem Awakening on the DS named Kellum, and he's like the heavy tank knight class, like in massive armor, and literally the running gag with him is nobody ever notices he's there.
No one does, and it's amazing.
You know, that's very fitting for Fritz.
Yeah.
Wow. How did I miss him? Fritz's eyes glimmer as he leans toward me.
Are you free now?
For a few hours. I'm assuming you want to go somewhere?
I always want to go somewhere with you, Lucette. But yes, if you have time, I'd like to take you out to town today. There's something I'd like you to see.
Then by all means, please lead on. Fritz takes my hand and begins to lead me down the corridor. As we approach the gates, I recall what Father said to the throne room and pause, considering. He said Fritz discussed something about the future with him, something he's not yet told me. Is there a reason he doesn't want to say anything to me?
Lucette, is something on your mind?
Since she's always honest, I feel like we should ask him about the future, because that just sounds in character.
Honest. I mean, it would literally make her a hypocrite
Yeah.
if she was like telling him to tell her everything and then not telling him everything.
And then how much of a worrywart he is, I feel like he'd press her for details.
Yeah, he'd catch on. And besides that, yeah, she couldn't hide it anyway. He'd catch on.
He's too observant and too much of a worrywart. Yeah. My father brought up something interesting earlier.
Interesting?
You said you spoke to him about the future and that you were at a loss for what to do after you retire. Much to my...
23.
Yeah, right? I wish I could retire as early as Fritz. Much to my surprise, I can see a sliver of irritation in Fritz's expression. Is that true, Fritz? You know you are more than welcome to speak to me about anything. I come to you with my own concerns about being queen all the time.
Don't take offense, Lucette, but I really want to talk about it. I really don't want to talk about it right now.
Fritz.
It's a bit of a disheartening topic, and I'd rather discuss it later.
He looks at me, his sadness melting into concern.
That'd be alright with you.
Of course, but please, Fritz, I want to help you. I hope you remember that. Fritz nods at me.
I know and appreciate your concern, Lucette. We'll discuss it later, I promise. That later will be when he has a knife in his gun.
The rumbling of the gate startled me, and I was about to look over my shoulder to see if my brother came home and started trolling me. He squeezes my hand as we head out the gates and into town. Fritz takes me to the edge of the main plaza, where the large crowd is already gathered. I nod my head politely at the townsfolk who meet my gaze. What is happening here? Fritz smiles.
You'll see. It's a surprise.
He leads me to the front of the crowd. I direct my attention to the central object of attention. A large stand. Them having attention twice in the same sentence threw me off. I'm sorry. Behind it stands a man I recognize. Waltz!
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Waltz, and today I'll be telling you a story.
Forgot he wasn't dead at this run.
Yeah,
I
no.
also thought that.
He
and
just...
I was trying very hard not to say anything.
He just never dies. Alright. I had no idea Waltz had a show planned for today.
Waltz never dies.
Yeah, he has Neverland curse. He can't. No. Waltz begins his show with the practiced ease of a longtime performer. Today he has puppets and is sitting behind his stand, using them to act out a scene.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a little witch. The little witch had a best friend who happened to be a human girl.
The story goes on, with Waltz playing both of the characters. It's a short about witch who does magic for her friends every day. But then one day, magic disappears, and the little witch no longer has any magic with which to impress her friends. For some time, the little witch is ostracized. She feels alone and sad because she no longer possesses the things she thought made her special. But at the end of the long story, the little witch's friends return.
Little witch's friends told her that even if she could no longer do magic, it didn't mean that her magic was gone. She still had magic.
When you have the former witch calling out the other witches in the crowd. One of the puppets points at the other.
Magic that was in her heart.
He smiles.
And regardless of the magic that used to exist, we all have magic in our hearts. Because I am Peter Pan. And that is why, even today, Little Witch and her friends can live happily ever after. Except for me.
I'm surprised.
I will never die.
I'm surprised by the loud applause. People liked this story? It's hard to believe after hearing what my captor said to me. They made it sound as if witches were being discriminated against. Turn to look at Fritz, who's applauding with everyone else.
I thought you needed to see this. You're not the only one trying to pick up the pieces from 2 years ago. You're not alone. You're not in this alone. Read.
Fritz. The applause dies away as some of the children rush to bombard Waltz with questions. Most people did not know Waltz was a witch until he publicly announced it 2 years ago. He didn't hoping it would ease tensions between the humans and the witches. Fritz leans over and grabs my hand. He pulls me away from the crowds into the outskirts of the plaza. Once we're safely outside the area, he turns to me again, one hand on his hip. Darn, I was hoping we'd get to go up to talk to Waltz.
I was in town earlier when I heard about Sir Waltz's show. I knew that I had to bring you here.
Thank you, Fritz. Even now, Fritz still thinks of me first. He's the most dedicated person I know. Eventually, the crowd begins to dissipate. Waltz, who's in the middle of taking down a stall, pauses when he knows Fritz and I. Yes, we get to visit with him after all.
It's time for another conversation between me and me. Yes. Princess, Sir Fitzgerald.
He stalked towards us with a bright smile. It's nice to see you again, Waltz. Waltz bows.
And you too, Princess. Were you two here for the show?
Fritz brought me here to see it. It was a good show with an interesting topic.
I heard about the kidnapping. Rumors spread fast in NGL. I'm sorry, Princess.
You don't need to apologize. Waltz shakes his head.
You're bearing a guilt you don't deserve. What happened 2 years ago was Lady Parfait's decision, not yours.
That's a
Yeah.
completely new pose.
It is, and it's the first time we get like a side view of someone, I think.
Yeah,
Boy,
pretty
it's
much.
gonna,
Except
and
for
we're
Seth.
gonna see it all the time after Fritz is dead and we go and do Waltz's line instead.
The canon line.
Wow.
Given the circumstances, it was the only thing that could be done.
I also forgot that the two of them are also the tallest people you can romance, because I did look it up.
Yeah, I believe it. Exactly. All of us wanted to help where and when we can. Bridging the distance between humans and witches is the first step all of us can help with. I may not have my magic anymore, but that does not mean I've changed any. I still have puppets.
No, Waltz is still unflaggingly optimistic. It just means he can't magically rain petals on the audience anymore.
He's not a master of prestidigitation.
Both Waltz and Fritz are smiling at me. When my eyes catches Fritz, he takes my hand in his and gives it a gentle squeeze. He turns to look at Waltz.
It was a great show, Sir Waltz. I was happy to see it. And I was glad you both could be here to see it. You ought to come to town more often.
We'll both try our hardest to do that. Waltz flashes us one last smile before returning to his booth. And to the children crowded around it, it sounds as if they're asking him to play a game. I turn to Fritz. We still have some time left. Do you want to take a stroll around town? Or perhaps you would like to rest? Some part of me really just wants to speak to Fritz about what I heard earlier. I need to know that he's okay. Fritz is quiet for a moment as he considers. In the end, he asks if I would be okay accompanying to his home for
Him.
some tea.
There you go.
Got the other him.
There isn't another him. They forgot to type
it's
it.
supposed to say be okay accompanying him to his
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, and that's what tripped me up, because I'm like, am I reading it wrong? I nod my approval, and the two of us began to make our way there.
Oh, good. We're doing this again.
Ah, this can only go well.
Don't drop the teacup again, Willie. Besides,
Wow.
Fritz says, if you come over to my place to drop the teacup, I'm going to be sad, and it's one less teacup in my collection. Besides, Fritz sets the tray of tea down on the small table in front of us. It's at times like this, when we're sharing tea in your home, that I wonder if you really are an old man stuck in a young man's body.
Lucette, I'm offended.
Despite his word, he still smiles as he plops down the cushions beside me.
And here I thought the tea would make conversation more pleasant.
Fritz glances at me after taking a sip of his tea.
You wanted to talk, yeah? Earlier, I promised that we would have this discussion.
He looks at me, somber.
I was actually going to bring it up to you myself. And sorry I didn't mention it earlier, but I'm
Ye-
dying.
Is that why your hair is white? Okay. You don't need to
Yeah.
apologize, Fritz.
Maybe it would help to start at the beginning.
Beginning.
Have I ever told you why I decided to become a knight?
No, you haven't. You weren't forced into it, were you? Can't help but think of the treacherous Algaster and the enormous amount of pressure he always put on Fritz. Wouldn't be surprised if Fritz had felt that there was no choice but to follow his father's footsteps.
No, I wasn't.
Fritz lowers his teacup and stares into it, his eyes filled with melancholy. Slowly, I slide towards him and lean my head on his shoulder.
Back when I was a child, there was nothing I loved more than listening to my father talk about the knights. Because he had such long days, I was usually stuck at home with the servants. They didn't interact with me much, so I was usually lonely up until the moment my father returned home with his sword in hand. When he came back, he would tell me stories over dinner. He used to tell me tales of knights in shining armor, of men who protected the kingdom with their lives. He told me about the noble counselors and of Angiel's noble, honorable king. I can read. Pictures he painted were filled with chivalry and heroism.
For a few moments, Fritz is quiet, his eyes cloudy with memory.
I loved him so much. I was proud to be his son. That didn't change, even when we grew distant. I had always thought my father's dedication to putting the kingdom first was admirable. Ooh. Later, when I decided to become a knight, my father trained me, even allowed me to use his own sword. The day he was made commander, we celebrated with the same tea.
He draws from me away from you with a sigh. Suddenly he looks stiff.
Back then, everyone thought of me as his shadow. They said I had no individual aspirations, that I may as well be a copy of my father. I think I proved them right when I followed my father's footsteps and joined the Knights. But
He looks at me and smiles gently.
I never let that cynicism get to me. When I learned that I was to become the princess's own personal knight, I didn't mind being compared to my father. All of my priorities shifted to you. I saw the way you closed people off, the way you were compared to your mother, and I
He sighs as he picks up his tea.
understood because my whole life I, too, had been compared to my father.
But you never lived in your father's shadow. You've always been your own person, Fritz.
Maybe. But either way, the fact remains that for all those years, the only thing I believed myself capable of was being your knight. I was happy to focus on my duties because I had nothing outside of them. It's a valid point.
Fritz's shoulders sag.
Truth is, Lucette, I'm terrified of what comes next. I am nothing without my sword and armor. Those people were right. I aspired to be like my father, and even when he's gone, I took up his mantle as commander without complaint. I followed his footsteps exactly, and now I have to give up my responsibilities. I have only you. This is what I've been wanting for years, but
He sinks even further into the cushions, his gaze forlorn.
now that I'm no longer your personal knight, I have nothing to offer you, Lucette.
His voice is small and weak.
I love you so much, but I'm not good enough for you. I have no plans for my future, nothing else I can be besides your knight. What am I without my title? A lord?
Well, even without that title.
And my whole life I've been trying to live up to others' expectations. First my father's, then the king's, and now yours. And I've never been good enough.
I set my tea down so they can look into his eyes. Fritz, that's not true. There's more to you than your past. You have the entire future ahead of you. You can be yourself without anyone ruling over your life. Fritz looks at me. The expression on his face is so gloomy, it makes my heart sink.
Yes, and that terrifies me. Because who even am I, Lucette?
I do not answer immediately. Fritz leans forward and grabs my hands.
You really know who I am, Lucette? Do you know what sort of person I am beneath all the expectations? I am a selfish fool.
Fritz, I've known you for a long time. A longer time than most people. I squeeze my hands and look at him confidently, unperturbed. No matter what side of yourself you show me, and no matter what you decide to do with your life, I will always support you. I'll always love you. For a long moment, the two of us just stare at each other. Fritz's expression is carefully blank, as if to conceal his emotions.
May I ask you the question then? You have to promise to answer truthfully.
I promise. He hesitates, but only for a few seconds.
Did you ever love Varg?
What? The minute Fritz mentions the name, the present falls away from me.
Can't make something from nothing. Some part of your precious Fritz became me, princess.
We go.
There was already something dark and twisted in his soul. Curse just brought it to life. And now here I am. I guess his emotions about you were too strong. You rubbed off on me. Now I'm stuck caring about you too. Stupid. We both know you'll choose. We both know who you'll choose when the time comes.
Back then, I didn't want Varg to exist, because if he did, he would drive away Fritz. The small, dark part of Fritz would overwhelm everything else that he was. That's what scared me most about Varg.
Lucette?
What?
I mean,
I
Why
feel...
It's an option.
I fully get why, because, like, he doesn't know who he is, and he kept that part of him hidden until it came to light, so it was kind of forced to show. And you even see hints of it show up now.
oh yeah.
Since he has more freedom. I feel like we should say that, yeah, we loved him.
I guess.
Because that's technically still Fritz.
Yeah, it's a part of him.
It's the part of him that he hides, because if she says, I only ever loved you, I think that's just going to make him more worried, because he's like, but Fritz is, but he'd be like, but Varg is me.
Okay.
But I am.
Okay. No, I'm about it. I can see that.
I mean, I think my answer is pretty obvious. Even though it has nothing to do with the game. I just love the character Varg.
Same, if I was choosing for myself, I would also pick I loved him.
Oh yeah, no, you had way too much fun last game with Varg.
Fritz is my favorite storyline for a reason, because I love both of those characters. And Varg is just an interesting character, because even when you're not on Fritz's line, he kind of, if he's able to, he does help Lucette, and he just goes off and does his own thing. He's just his own form of little chaos.
I'm gonna be honest, Fritz was my favorite just because, literally because they got to flex Evil Mom.
Yeah.
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 Delightful and terrifying.
Yeah, it was the most fun storyline because I heard too, because it went pretty dark. Where Waltz's could have been as good, but they already expect you to play everything else, so they're able to gloss over that.
Honest,
but
I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember Waltz's storyline.
yeah, it's more because I couldn't remember it either until we did it. But I think it's because basically they gloss over everything because you already know that. And so I might call it lazy writing, but it makes sense. So you don't really get to spend as much time on that. You just focus it more on other things because all
Yeah,
the
I don't
details are
remember
already
any-
given.
I don't remember. The only thing I remember about Waltz's storyline is the whole she got memories stolen of them being friends. I literally remember nothing else from it.
Well, because everything
And
else was basically a
I've
recap.
heard plenty about the other storylines.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are we settled for I loved him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Once again, we unanimously agree.
Woo! Fritz looks at me in surprise.
But you always said...
I put my fingers to his lips. Ah, that's the answer I was hoping for. I didn't love Varg for himself, but because he was a part of you.
Oh, good.
Fritz stares at me, obviously puzzled. Remember when Mithros told me that Varg was slowly taking over your mind? Remember how terrified I was? Do you know why? Fritz says nothing, but looks at me mournfully. God damn, this eyelash won't get out of the corner of my eye, and it's freaking annoying. I've been picking at it this whole time. Because even though Varg was a part of you, I didn't want him to take over your conscience. When Varg disappeared, I knew he would go back to you. But if you disappeared, Fritz, Varg would have only ever been a distorted fraction of what you were. He was never meant to exist on his own. But still, Varg was a part of you, and I loved him for that. Fritz's expression crumbles as he pulls away from me.
Lucette.
Are we about to find out if he fucked up or not?
Yep.
Though I know... Okay, we have a little bit still. Though I know you are far more complex than just that single facade, I accept that part of you. That's why you asked, isn't it? Fritz smiles at me. It's half-hearted, but still better than his earlier hesitance.
Once again, we're unanimous and we're right.
Yep.
Thank you, Lucette.
He slides off the couch and turns to face me.
I apologize for going off on a tangent.
Cat.
I get the impression that the tangent has yet to be adequately explored.
Accurate. Anyway, with that, you know a little bit more about my worries. I didn't plan on saying anything to you until I'd come up with a more concrete plan, but...
A concrete plan?
Yes, a concrete plan for the future. I want to find something else I can be passionate about. Blacksmith. Because outside of who and what I've been for the past for so many years, I haven't had a lot of time to explore much else about myself.
Fritz was always so busy with his duties, he never prioritized his own hobbies. Come to think of it, what does Fritz do in his spare time?
Trainer?
Could we not come up with a plan together?
Together?
Yes, perhaps we should come up with a list, and we can check off items on the list that when we're able to do them.
Workmaster.
I can't help but smile at Fritz's confusion. You can list things you want to do or see, or things that you like. Then, whenever I have the time, I can help you do or see those things. You have more free time on your hands, don't you? If that's the case, then we can both find a new future for you together. In the deepest part of my heart, I cannot help but imagine Fritz sitting beside me on the throne. Yet I'm realistic enough to know that this transition would not be easy. It takes two people to make that kind of a momentous decision. Besides, Fritz is finally being given the chance to live the way he wants. I don't want to take that freedom away by forcing him into yet another role. Perhaps if we spend more time together, that sort of future will become a reality one day. What do you think? Fritz smiles at me. After a few moments, he holds out his hands. I put my hand in his and smile when he kisses the back of it.
I accept your offer, beautiful Lucette. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Oh, but before any of that, I point to his tea and raise my eyebrows. Finish your tea, Lord Fitzgerald, otherwise it'll get cold.
You know, just as well it's been cold for a while now. But if Her Royal Highness commands it, then I shall obey.
He plops
mean,
back down the
cold is not
couch
that bad.
and scoots closer to me, close enough to wrap an arm around my waist. I spend the remainder of my free time with Fritz's side, wondering if there's anything I can do to help him beyond the assistance I've already offered. Chapter 4, Wolf. Do we want to stop here and do another chapter? Do we want to stop here or do we want to continue to do another chapter?
I want to stop here and do another chapter.
Oh,
Yes.
it's midnight for you guys. How late?
Yeah.
I am willing to keep going. The question is mostly for Willie, to be honest.
I shouldn't, because I do have to wake up in the morning.
How early?
I should probably be up by like 7, 8.
We can change your headlight together.
No, there's also a couple other things I gotta do.
Alright. Well,
Yeah, we can call it there then.
alright. We'll
We got
do that
first
just for you.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I
really
am a
cool.
busy boy.
Through.
We're gonna save it to slot 1. Boop.
But that was the Chevalier file.
Well, fuck Chevalier. I think we have another one right here. Yeah, right
What?
there. We have another one. It's
Yeah,
fine.
but
Dylan is
that's
like
fine.
offended.
You know what? Talk your shit, because it's gonna be. It's gonna be real funny when Abby watches this too and hears that you deleted her favorite character's save file.
Hey, he has another save file. I
There are
do
2 of them.
I
Fritz
do-
just walked over and stabbed one of them.
I do at least want to try to push for a little more, because I know it's taking us two days for each thing, but we only have 3 days before